Hi everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Reedsy. Today we're going to be talking about Amazon categories. We had an older video a few years ago on the topic of Amazon categories, but a lot has changed since then. So if you want to learn about Amazon categories and how they work in 2023, we're going to be covering all the details in this video. Amazon organizes its titles into categories, just like a traditional bookstore would. However, you may find that the Amazon categories are a lot more intricate and specific than you would find in a brick-and-mortar bookstore. Unlike in a traditional bookstore, when you self-publish on Amazon, you have over 10,000 categories that you can choose between, ranging from very broad categories like romance to extremely specific subcategories like Viking historical romance. So why do Amazon categories matter? Basically, categories give readers a way to search for books by genre or topic. If your book isn't listed where your target audience would expect to find it, then your sales will struggle. Even if the book is incredible, readers need to be able to find your book in order to love it, and most importantly, the right readers need to be able to find your book. Amazon creates lists within their different categories to help readers see which books are trending, much like a traditional bookstore with something like a window display or a featured reads shelf. On Amazon, these lists include a new releases list, a popularity list, and a hot new releases list. These lists are important because if you're able to get your book on these lists, it pretty much guarantees that readers will see your books when they go to that given category because your book will be listed at the top. This is kind of a whole other topic, but if you want to learn more about how this works, you can check out our blog post on Amazon algorithms, which goes more into depth on these lists. I'll leave that linked in the description. But for now, the main thing to know is that these books are listed in order of current sales rank. So the more copies you're currently selling, the higher you'll climb on the list, and the better chance you'll have of reaching readers who are looking at your chosen category. So having one of the best-selling books across the entire Amazon store is pretty much impossible, except for the very most successful authors. But as an indie author, it's entirely possible and very valuable to rank among the top books in a specific category. You just have to know which categories to pick. The first step is to build a list of categories. Start with your book's genre. You probably already know this, but genres can be complicated. I'll leave some resources on figuring out your book's genre in the description. Then you'll want to familiarize yourself with the list of categories and subgenres within your genre on the Amazon and Kindle stores, which do differ slightly. Go to the department you want to explore, then scroll through the sidebar until you find the list of categories. When you click on one, you'll get to a list of subcategories. Then when you click on one of those, you'll get to the subcategories. Once you stop getting a list of new options, that means you've reached the most specific level of categories on the store. Listing in subcategory automatically lists your book in all of its parent categories, so this is where you want to list your book, at that most specific detailed level. To build a more complete list, you'll also have to look at your competitors. Start by plugging relevant keywords into the Amazon search bar. Then, from the results, you can compile a list of books similar to your own. Then, go to the product details and see which categories those books are listed under. For anything that looks promising, you can then click through to that category's bestseller page. Exploring the books on that page will give you more ideas of categories you can consider. Do keep in mind as well that categories are different for print and ebooks, since they're listed under different places in the Amazon store. The Kindle store for ebooks and under books for print. So if you're publishing in both formats, you'll have to repeat this process for both the print and ebook stores. The next step is to identify categories with both good traffic and beatable competition. Not all categories are created equal. Some will have more competition than others, making them harder to rank for. Others will have a much smaller readership, making that #1 spot less valuable, because they won't lead to many sales because not many people are looking there. Once you have your list of possible categories, you need to whittle them down to your ideal categories. These are categories where the book is a natural fit, you have a good chance of ranking well, there's enough user traffic to that category to make that ranking worthwhile. Many of the broad genres might fit, but are too broad for you to realistically rank there. Your book may be fantasy or contemporary fiction, but these are extremely broad genres. Ranking in these categories is extremely hard, especially for an indie author, so you'll have to get more specific. You don't want to pick the least competitive categories just so you can get the top spot, because the category may be so obscure that no one is even looking there. So how do you analyze categories? You can use Amazon bestseller rankings to weigh the amount of traffic that different categories are getting. To do this, go back to the bestsellers page. Find the bestseller button from Amazon's top banner, select books, and then go to your chosen category. Then you want to take a look at the top 5 books on the bestseller list, and specifically note their Amazon bestseller rank. If they're among the top 20 books for the whole store, you know this is a hyper-competitive category, and it would be very difficult to climb to the top. This is what you'll often see in very popular and more general categories. On the other hand, if the books in your chosen category have an Amazon bestseller rank higher than 5,000, this suggests that the category is pretty niche and low in traffic, since even the top books in that category aren't getting very many sales. Now, you don't need to avoid these categories altogether, but you don't want all your categories to be super niche or hyper competitive. Your final list should be a healthy balance of both. And if you can find relevant categories in that sweet spot of both not too obscure and not too competitive, that's even better. If you have the budget, the Kindle research tool is a really helpful tool for researching categories and can help you compile a really thorough list of potential categories that you can rank in order of suitability. Step 3 is to pick your 3 categories. When publishing your book through KDP, you'll be prompted to select 3 categories, so you'll have to know the exact category path. So if you want to list your book under Arthurian fantasy, you'll have to first select science fiction and fantasy, then myths and legends, then Arthurian. You can only select 3 categories for each format, but you definitely want to make use of all 3. It's good to pick categories with different levels of competitiveness. So one small, more niche category with an Amazon bestseller rank of over 5,000. You won't get too much visibility here, but it'll give you a good chance of getting that top spot and earning a bestseller badge. Then you can also pick a mid-range category with an Amazon bestseller rank between 5,000 and 500. You may not get number 1 here, but if you can get in the top 10, you'll get some solid visibility. And finally, you can pick a competitive category with an Amazon bestseller rank under 500. If your book really takes off or goes viral, this category can provide a huge boost in sales because it gets a ton of traffic. But above all, you want to make sure you are picking categories that are perfect for your book and not list your book in any misleading categories that would make it hard for your target audience to find your book and would instead steer the wrong readers towards it. Which leads to step 4, protect your also bots. When researching categories, you'll likely find some unexplored niches that might seem like a great opportunity but are only tangentially related to your book. You want to resist the urge to list your book there because you risk what's called also bot pollution. Your also bots are the books that customers bought before or after buying your book. Amazon keeps track of these purchases and tends to assume that these books are similar, and so will recommend them to similar readers. If the also bot algorithm connects your title to a popular title in your genre, you can get a considerable spike in sales. This fantastic opportunity to increase visibility can become a bit of a nightmare if the algorithm connects your book to an unconnected title. Say you write a medieval fantasy book and you decide to list it in historical romance because, you know, there's a little bit of romance in your book. There's a subplot there, and you're trying to fill out your categories. Then your book starts to sell well. It gets good reviews, it climbs the bestseller list, and Amazon decides to give it a push by recommending it to readers who've bought your also bought titles. But here's the catch. If enough romance readers buy your book when they stumble across it in the historical romance category, then your also bots will be full of historical romance novels. And then when Amazon recommends your action-packed fantasy book with just a tiny dash of romance to readers who are looking for romance novels, they'll take one look at your book's description, see that it's not for them, and leave. Amazon will see that their recommendation didn't convert to sales. They'll stop recommending your book and you'll lose a bunch of traffic. That's to show that sending traffic to your book isn't enough. You have to send the right kind of traffic. If it's the wrong type of traffic, it can pollute your also bots and kill your sales momentum. It's also important to keep in mind that things can change. With tons of new books entering the market and trends shifting and changing what's popular, a category that may have once been a hidden gem, that perfect balance of not too niche and not too competitive, can quickly become impossible to rank in. That's why it's important to keep a close eye on your categories and update them if they need refreshing. Or if your initial categories aren't working, it can take some trial and error, and that's okay. So that's what you need to know about Amazon categories. It is definitely worth taking the time to really pick your categories carefully. It can seem like a small choice, but it's a free and relatively straightforward way of marketing your book by ideally getting Amazon to do some of the work for you. It's also one of the best ways to get relevant eyes on your book. So you want to make the most of it and get it right. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos from us. We've got new writing, editing, and publishing tips every Friday on this channel. Until next time, bye.